First of all, good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be here amongst the land of the living. And Chanel said something that was so critical to me earlier, and she said, it's all up to you in 2022. It's all up to you. We're so quick to point the finger and to look at everything that we have no control over. And for me, what I found that to be is fear, excuses, and a whole bunch of other things. But if I'm going to ever reach my fullness, me being from the country, I'm going to tell you one thing I've learned to do is prime the pump. Prime the pump. What are you saying, Andre? If you want to get water out, you got to be willing to put a little water in, make an investment, and prime that pump to get the water out. So are you priming the pump for that thing that you want to come up out of the pump? Madam President, if I can, I'll go ahead and give my treasurer's report as well. Our balance in the account right now as of January the 21st is $898.19. And let me remind the members that right now, I believe we have maybe 19 members. Our budget for this year is based on us having 30 members. So we've got a little bit of work to do, but if anybody can make it happen, this club can. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much for your participation. I really appreciate that. So I'd like a few words from Dan Arbuckle.
You don't want to hear from Dan Jarman. He's much more dynamic.
No, we love you.
From a Sergeant at Arms standpoint, Rick Chandler has shared info on purchasing that wonderfully handy microphone speaker combination that we used a few meetings ago, and I'll work with Andre to procure that. And we're going to be virtual for the next couple of meetings and then venture into hybrid starting in April. So hopefully that'll go a bit smoother than it has in the past. With hybrid, you learn as you go. Sometimes it works perfect, sometimes it doesn't. And it's the trying and being with your fellow Toastmasters that's the important part. And that's all I have as Sergeant at Arms.
Great job. Thank you so much. Our next officer is Secretary and VP of Membership. Let's give Linda Maniscalco a warm welcome.
Thank you, Linda. First of all, as secretary, I was asked, I think, on a memo from Linda Wilson to talk about what we're doing with our minutes right now. First, for the executive officer meetings that we have once a month, I have recorded those minutes and transcribed them, and I send them out to the members every single month. So all of our officers should have copies of the minutes of all of our meetings so far this year. Now, the second part of that, the membership meeting minutes, is a little bit more involved. We were trying to put them out on our Google OneDrive. If you remember, Dan Jarman set that up for us. He gave limited access to that, and we were trying as a trial to put those minutes out there, and I have several examples of minutes and videos out there. But it became apparent that we were not this year going to use that Google OneDrive. There's been some questions about where we should put our recordings and our minutes. One of the ideas was to try to get our own club YouTube channel and put the videos out there just like other clubs in the district have done. As far as I know, Linda, you can correct me, I don't think there's been any progress on that, any committees or anything to start a YouTube drive channel for our club. So what happens with our minutes right now? I took over 2 years ago from Terry Ann Porter. I got the historical notebooks from A Taste of Success. I have all the minutes from the first meeting in 2012 when they chartered, and I print off the minutes from the meetings and put them into those notebooks for historical reference right now. I have not, in the times I've been secretary, sent out the minutes to any of the members. It's always been a discussion about putting them out somewhere where the members had access to those. I'm in several clubs. I've been in the Cerner clubs. I'm in Blue Jacket. I don't personally, as a member, get minutes every month from the meetings. So I guess it's an open discussion right now on where we go now with the minutes. Anybody roundtable want to chime in?
Linda, this is Samantha. We do have a YouTube channel, and I posted the link as a reminder in the chat for anybody that needs to find it.
Okay, I have no idea, Samantha, on how to put videos out on YouTube. That's been
Okay.
a suggestion. So I guess we have a channel,
We do.
and how will it be put out there?
So I think we need to talk about the process of who has rights. Linda and I believe Linda W and I have rights to be able to post out there.
And that's another thing. That's something that we've always run into in the past with whether we're using a Google OneDrive or whatever, or we've even talked about Free Toast Host and sticking our minutes out there. Who has access to this, and do they have the right access? And can there be something that every single member, even if it's only view or read only, have access to?
Yeah, and what I've found and what I've done with some of the social media sites is we are using the Free Toast Host email for those officer roles. So for example, the VP has a specific one rather than using our personal email. That way, as people switch officer roles, it's related to that roles email, not to a personal email. That's where we've run into issues before for access.
Okay,
That's what I would recommend be common practice going forward.
okay. I'm a little bit dense on all this stuff, Sam, a little bit.
Not a
so-
problem at all.
Are we suggesting that every member have their own access to the channel with rights set up, and who's going to be able to administer and be the administrator for that?
Yeah, so officers will have rights. I need to check the rights on the YouTube channel specifically. So what I was proposing is those roles, the officer emails remain the same as far as who has access to publish, but any member should have access to be able to subscribe to that channel, to YouTube. Same thing with social media if they are on social media, and be able to at least view those things. But as far as who has editorial rights or publish rights, that I would recommend keeps with the officer Free Toast Host email addresses. That way, again, as officers change, at least that email address is consistent for who has published rights. Because you can switch it in Free Toast Host who is VPPR, who's president, et cetera, for that particular email role.
Okay.
Andre, you look like you're talking.
I was just going to say, for the sake of time, it might be good if we discuss the details of some of this in our officers meeting, maybe. But great things that we're bringing up, but let's maybe better to discuss some of it offline.
And Andre, I agree with that. But one thing that I thought was a benefit right here with all the club members, we pretty much have most of our club members on right now, is to ask them how they want to access this and how much access they want. Because that's something we don't know in the officer meeting.
I mean, I'm an officer, but there's a place to put downloads on the Free Toast Host site. Every club member can log in and see those. That might be a nice place to put things.
Okay.
Cool.
Is there a
Chris Mace?
limit to how much content we can have on a Free Toast Host?
I assume, but I don't know what it would be. I'd assume it's fairly large.
Yeah. And I'm just asking, like my friend Chris Mason, Chris, do you access any minutes or videos for our club and want to know certain things when you miss a meeting?
Oh, yes, that comes up an awful lot.
Right.
Okay, I'm just asking.
You got these cartoon characters behind you, Chris.
Oh, I love it.
Darren, you're
Don't you recognize the mana?
Just a point of reference on Toast Host, I do believe that you can attach minutes to the agenda for that particular meeting. So that may be an option, but we can table that for the officer meeting if that's what y'all want to do.
Okay.
Sounds great. Anything about membership, Linda?
Yes, we're starting a new campaign. I'm going to kick it off this weekend. You'll all get emails. It's called Each One, Reach One. And we're not only narrowing it down to one, we're asking that you invite as many guests as possible in the next 3 months, February, March, and April. And April will be our open house meeting. And as you invite members, we'll be tracking that. And there is a gift card involved for the person that invites the most members. It's a $25 Amazon gift card. Pretty nice. So I'm going to send it out. I'm going to send a list. Who will be responsible for tracking your guests that you invited? Because I have sometimes no idea who invited whom. So you will be responsible to fill it out and tell me who you've invited, but I will keep track of the number of guests. And that will all come out this weekend.
All right. Thank you, Linda. Great job. Appreciate it. And Samantha, you have already gave us a lot of what you're doing. Tell us more on what
All
you
right.
do in your role.
Social media, social media, social media. Let me do something really quick here. And I am going to share my screen when we're talking about that lovely free host site that everybody in the club should be familiar with. So you probably and hopefully have seen that we post the little flyers that we create each month about the meetings. These are on our free host site, and they are also on all our social media sites. And one thing I do want to point out is right here underneath where you log in to see your agendas are links to each one of our social media, including YouTube. Meetup is District 22. We post events. We have a account through District 22, and we do post our meetings out on Meetup. So there's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, all right here. Click go. If you are on those social media sites, please like the page, share the page. And we can put together a quick video if you're not sure how to do that on using and best utilizing these sites. But this is how you reach them initially. And then as you make contacts, that's where you start going back and doing your invites, etc. But I just wanted to point out this nice little feature right here. It's all right here. You don't have to memorize links or anything. You just click right from that page.
Awesome.
Hey, Samantha.
Yes.
Do you update that from one website, updates them all, or do you have to go in and do it all individually?
So I set when I looked at what links were in each one of those in the back end of Free Toast Host site of admin, you can change what that URL is. So if you've changed a Facebook site or whatever, let's say you're using a different one, you can just change it right there in the admin section of Free Toast Host, and it'll populate there.
Do they have the capability of putting like MeWe on there or Safe Chat or anything like that?
I'm sure you could. You would probably have to have your own little icon. So like the Instagram one, they didn't have the typical Instagram icon. So I just grabbed that icon and loaded it in there. But yeah.
Great job, Samantha. While you have the website open, can you go to an agenda and let people see the agenda? Like maybe the agenda for this evening? No, the agenda.
You want me to pull up the agenda on the Toasto site?
Yes.
Okay, hang on. Let me make sure I am logged in because I'm not sure. Hang on, let me log in first. And then I will.
Can you post one in the chat?
Yes, I will do that.
Yes, we can. Authenticate, and then I can go in and share. There we go. Okay, so since I've logged in, our meeting agendas are here. So we'll go through the theme. We had our roundtable, we're going through the business meeting, and then we have all the pieces here with speaker 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Timer, Toastmaster, general evaluator. And then you can put notes down here for everyone. Is that what you're wanting to see, Linda?
Yes. So
Okay.
Go to February because today is a special meeting. We started at 6, but our meetings usually start at 6:30.
Right.
So
So here's 218.
So our meetings start at 6:30 and then our club meeting starts at 7:15. So I just want everybody to see that. And this is where you can go to sign up for your roles way ahead.
And I see Barb is taking Toastmaster for February, so woohoo!
Yes, and we already have the thing, so that is awesome. So
Fantastic. That's what we like to see. And I when I'm going and building out those little Canva posters for PR, I'm going in here and I'm always looking to see, do we have our speakers filled out? Because that's what I'm using to fill out those little posters. So the sooner we have those in there, the better. We can
yes,
get them out on social media quicker that way. And the theme.
awesome. So can you post the agenda in the chat for us?
Yeah, let me download it here.
Okay, cool, thank you. So while you do that, it is time for us to introduce our Toastmaster. And our Toastmaster is our illustrious Dan Arbuckle, who will lead us in an evening full of fun. I can't wait to see what he has in store for us. So let's give Dan Arbuckle a warm welcome. Woo-woo, go Dan.
Thank you very much. As you may have seen, the theme is bring an inspiration to share or a spirit to toast with. Now, I don't drink, so we're going to pretend this is Long Island iced tea. And if you have something to toast with, let's toast to a great meeting.
Here, here.
I'm also not overly inspirational, so I'll need all of you to pretend I am. We're going to talk a little bit about New Year's. Mainly, we're going to talk about inspiration, and I'm sure our three speakers will do a wonderful job of inspiring us. I will have a little bit of New Year's trivia, and there may be an opportunity to share something inspiring. All right, we'll start with our first piece of trivia. Who knows when New Year's started and when New Year's resolution started? Who did this and when?
That's January 1st of every year, right?
That's my inspiration, but not the right answer.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Started with the Babylonians 4,000 years ago. They also started the New Year's resolution.
But you
Typically,
mean
it was to pay off
original date.
debts, the original date. Not what happened in 45 AD or BC, but we'll get to that in a minute or two. My inspiration is every New Year's people make some pledge, some promise, some resolution that they're going to do whatever. If something is truly so important that you have to resolve to do it, don't wait till New Year's Day. Do it whenever and as often as you want. Many years ago, I made a New Year's resolution that I have kept, and that was to never make another one. That doesn't work for everybody, but it worked for me. With no further ado, we will start out. It's my pleasure to introduce our Wordmaster, Counter, Grammarian, our immediate past district director, Joanne Monroe.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dan. The word I chose tonight is a synonym of inspiration. It's afflatus. And I've got it in the chat, so I guess I'll go ahead and put it in so you can see as I'm talking. It's AFFLATUS. It's a noun. And one of the definitions is inspiration, an impelling mental force acting from within. And a second definition is divine communication of knowledge. And an example of a sentence: lie down on the dusty shingle above high water mark, take off my hat, and abandon myself to the divine afflatus. And I will also be counting the ahs and other filler words tonight, as well as listening for any grammatical mistakes or things that just catch my attention and want to share with everybody. So I will report at the end of the meeting.
Thank you very much. And our timer for this evening is none other than the Toastmaster of the Year, Terry Ann Porter. Would you mind sharing with us how you will do your timing?
I'm going to try to keep everyone running on time a little bit. And I will divine afflatus knowledge to all of you this way. Didn't fit, but hey, I tried. For those speakers, when you get to the minimum time, I'm believing that our speeches, are they all 5 to 7 today? Looks,
Andre
no,
is a little
okay.
longer.
Andre, well, Andre's always a little longer.
Watch it,
Anyway, when
watch
you
it.
get, when you get to the minimum of your speaking time, you will see that, and you won't see me. I'll make it real easy for you to find me here. Then at the very end, it will be red. Partway in between there, it will be yellow. That way I don't have to give you the exact timings. For table topics, which is 1 to 2 minutes, you will see the green at the 1 minute, the yellow at the 1.5, and the red at the 2-minute mark. And it will stay up until you complete your speaking. And that is how I intend to try to keep all of you on time tonight.
Well, thank you very much for that wonderful affectation. Would that be close to the correct usage? Our first speaker for this evening is Kirby Scott Ingalls. Kirby will be working on level 2 of visionary communication. The purpose of this project is to identify your primary leadership style or styles. Kirby will share some aspects of his leadership style, his preference when working with others, how he can adapt his styles to situations, and how it impacts a group. Kirby Ingalls, Grand Slam Leadership, Kirby Ingalls.
Thank you very much. I was 9 years old wearing my orange hat and my white uniform with socks written across the front of it. And I took a few practice swings as I got ready for batting practice right before the championship. And Dave, that assistant coach on our team, said, "You know, Kirby, you got lucky last night. You had your eyes closed when you hit that ball. You can't hit what you can't see." Mr. Toastmaster, members, guests, the night before was the semifinals, and we were facing the Yankees, the Darth Vader of the league, who threw the ball hard and hit it well, and they won everything. They represented the evil empire well with those black uniforms, and everyone feared them. And it was the last at bat. Down by 3, I was the 4th batter. I imagine each batter of my teammates getting up on base and then me stepping up to that plate and winning the game. Just like I had rehearsed so many times in the backyard as a child, repeatedly, over and over, pretending it was the World Series. Each of those kids, they got on base. And I stepped into that batter's box, looked at that pitcher named Pavel Slepika. And that ball came in low at my knees, and I gave it a massive uppercut swing with everything that I had. I felt the ball connect off of that bat, and it jumped right off into this giant rainbow shot towards the outfield. And I saw that outfielder, he was backpedaling, and then all of a sudden I seen him come back forward. And then the ball dropped in front of him through his legs, and he couldn't get it. He tried to grab it, and I turned first base and I grabbed another gear. His fingers must have been like butter because he could not pick up that ball without dropping it. And then my eyes turned towards that third base coach. And all I saw as I turned second base was that big wheel arm going, go, go, go. And as I turned and looked, I kicked into that nitros, and through my peripheral vision, I could see that shot coming through the outfield, that relay coming in towards the shortstop, Tyler Shelton. He had a laser for an arm. It was like a rocket launcher. He would throw that ball right as my foot hit home plate. And that ball whizzed over my head so fast that I could hear it in my ear and smashed the backstop. Everyone came out pouring. We had won the game. Patting me on the back, slapping me in the head. Well, I'll tell you, my ability to visualize success has helped me throughout my life. It's allowed me to visualize a result and communicate it and serve as my personal leadership style. The skill has always been there. I just didn't recognize it until I decided I was done playing baseball. I was tired of these coaches talking down to players, crushing them. I decided officiating was my last chance at this sport, and I loved it. I began learning the art of umpiring, and I hung out with those seasoned umpires, and I received valuable instruction. I went all to the camps, but I contribute success to one thing: visualization. I would go to that game early. I would get dressed, play some dramatic music, and visualize the game. Pitch by pitch, hit by hit, play by play. Hey, hey, batters out. Free. And imagine myself officiating the perfect contest. Let me unbuckle this first. I was surprised when I was announced at the end of year banquet as Rookie of the Year for the tri-state area in 3 states. My hard work paid off because 2 years later, they granted me a scholarship to do collegiate umpire, and I got to go to a camp in Florida. It was my big chance to get on the field with the semi-professional baseball players, something that I had been dreaming about. It was about to happen, but I was moving back to Missouri. I declined and donated that scholarship back to the association so they could give it to an up-and-coming umpire and grow their own. So I took that lesson, being a visionary, and I applied it to my next role, right? When I was in charge of an organization full of soldiers who needed rehabilitation due to their injuries that they had suffered during training, or those who might have failed a physical assessment. So I took that visionary communication style and I turned those ideas into words and communicated them and did it often. I tried to sell what I could see. I even used it with individuals who were losing hope. I'd take their thoughts and why they had joined the military and remind them of their purpose and help them see success, help them see a destination and build that roadmap to recovery and put themselves back on track where their dreams of serving this great nation and the United States Army. At the end of my tenure, we had actually grown this organization from serving 30 people to over 200 soldiers a day. We had saved the Army $44 million in training cost by increasing our training load, but also due to the efficiency and effectiveness of our program. I bring this type of visionary communication style to my role here in Toastmasters. My profession as a leader in my family and in my community. You see, I help people see opportunity, the potential, the possibilities, and I help uplift them and emerge with a new life and energy. I guess my assistant coach, Dave, he was right. If I could find my bat, right? He was right because I couldn't see that ball. I had my eyes closed, but he was also wrong because I could see what I was about to hit because it isn't always your eyes. Sometimes seeing is believing. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Wonderful job. Now for another piece of trivia, we touched on this earlier. We currently use the Julian calendar. Who created the Julian calendar?
A person named Julian.
Very close.
Caesar, wasn't it? Julius Caesar?
Exactly. So you were on the right path.
Mhm.
The month of January. Again, his invention. Who is that name for?
Janus, god of, I forget.
The Roman god of doors and gates, Janus. Two faces, one looking forward into the future, one looking back into the past. Kind of fitting for starting a new year out, looking at that path we will take ahead and the journey that brought us to where we are. Our second speaker is Samantha Cook. Samantha is working on level 3 of motivational strategies. Her project was focused on understanding emotional intelligence. As a part of that project, she had to journal a few weeks about her emotions and make some observations and share learnings. Today, she will share the awareness she gained on expressing our emotions. Samantha Cook, Awareness and Emotional Expressions. Awareness and Emotional Expressions, Samantha Cook.
Mark Brackett, PhD, is the founder and director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence and is also a professor in the child study of Yale University. And he states, "My message for everyone is the same, that if we can learn to identify, express, and harness our feelings, even the most challenging ones, we can use these emotions to help us create positive, satisfying lives." Toastmasters and guests, if that's not an example of an afflatus, I don't know what would be. As mentioned, for the past few weeks, I've kept a journal of my emotions and not only the effect they've had on me, but the effect that they have had on others, or my observation of that effect. And although I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details of what I wrote in that personal journal, I'm going to share with you 3 key learnings that I had through doing this journaling experience. So number 1, the first learning is it's okay to feel your emotions. Don't deny those feelings, accept them and understand them. What I learned through journaling and also prior to doing journaling is that I have a tendency in a public situation to suppress or avoid any sort of outgoing emotion in terms of a lot of sadness or a lot of anger. I tend to suppress those because I don't want to have a lot of conflict. So that was an aha that I discovered as I was doing this journaling. In addition to doing journaling, I've gone through different therapy sessions throughout my life. And each therapist reiterates to me, it's okay to feel. There's nothing wrong with feeling emotions. It's not wrong. And you should accept that's the way you feel. It's also important in feeling that to learn what's triggering this with you and what causes you to respond versus maybe do what I do and suppress. Second learning is how you respond to your emotion. How can you get yourself in the driver's seat? So Mark, in that opening quote, alludes to harnessing and expressing. Criticism. Criticism tends to be something I struggle with, and I find that it puts myself sometimes on the defensive as well as others. One thing to think about is analyze that criticism. Was it justified? After you ponder and think about that, was that comment correct? Try to work to improve it. If you say, nah, not correct, after you really take time to think about it, discard it. Don't hold it in. Use I feel statements instead of you statements. A lot of times when we are talking to others and expressing our emotions, especially those in anger, we say you, and that will put anybody on the defensive or their guard will go up. But instead, if you say, I feel this when I hear this or I experience this, That allows that conversation to open up. Use the viewpoint also of that person's comment in terms of having a good intention with that comment. It may be that their form of delivery is very direct with very sharp words, and that may be their communication style, and understand and recognize that. Try not to allow that to feed into your emotions, and understand that's their viewpoint. Again, go back and do that analysis. Is it justified? Okay, try to make a change. If not, discard it. Don't hang on to it. Third learning. There are ways to manage and control your emotions while still allowing yourself to feel. So when we say manage and control, it doesn't mean suppress, which was my tendency in some situations. But instead, when you get a piece of information, take a deep breath. You hear about yoga breaths and deep breathing. Take a short walk. Count to 10 before you respond, and allow yourself to sit and acknowledge the feeling that you're having and why you're having that feeling. You can also try to manage your stress level that feeds into your emotions by not overcommitting yourself and allowing for downtime. That's something I've personally been working on and identified more again in journaling. I need to continue to not overcommit. Be very mindful. Take time, meditate, relax, practice self-care. Seek the help, like I did, of a therapist when you just feel overwhelmed and you need to talk to somebody. And cut out negative influences in your life, whether that's a person, whether that's a social media, whether that's a news channel. Sometimes you just need to turn it off for a while. Be mindful of the surroundings that you're in and the situation that you're in. And know that it's okay to feel those feelings, and maybe take some time to really ponder and think and analyze. And finally, again, through journaling and through work with my therapist, I learned it's okay to feel your emotions, to respond to your emotions, and most importantly, to manage your emotions. I'd like to close with a quote from T.K. Coleman. Our feeling is not there to be cast out or conquered. It's there to be engaged and expressed with imagination and intelligence. Back to our Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Since we're a dinner club, food has a lot to do with New Year's. Why should you eat black-eyed peas on New Year's Day? Or beans in the case of Italy?
For financial prosperity in the coming year.
Because they look like coins. And that's exactly why. Is there another food item that goes along the same path?
I don't think you're talking about champagne, right?
No.
Too bad.
Heard of a Jewish tradition of doing apples with honey.
Oh,
Sounds interesting. I was thinking of
Sweetness for the
pork.
new year. Oh,
Pork is supposed to be a sign of progress and prosperity.
Hmm.
As are leafy greens, starting out a new year in a healthy sense. In the Netherlands, they eat circular cakes, which I automatically identify as donuts. The full year coming, the year coming full circle. So if you've got an opportunity to eat black-eyed peas with the smoked ham hocks and mixed greens, you throw in some cornbread, some kind of protein, whether it's fried chicken, fried fish, fried pork chops. I think that's a meal you should eat once a week, once a month, instead of once a year. And donuts you should have every day. Our third speaker, Andre Red. Completing the visionary communication path has been quite an enlightening experience. His hope is that you will be motivated somewhere during his speech to do a personal checkup from the neck up. Please help me welcome Walter Andre Red as he shares some insights and life lessons learned on his journey. Andre Red, do you see what I see? Do you see what I see, Andre Red?
had a dream. How many of you all, when I say that, understand that I am talking about a visionary? Yes, my path was visionary, and to make it even more difficult, communication. Visionary communication. I learned so much about me during this journey, and this is the very last speech, not only for me in the second path, but as before I get my DTM. And so, yes, you can celebrate. You can celebrate with me. But I learned so much about it that I thought I would get Walter to help me to present this speech. Visionary, by definition, is a person with original ideas about what the future will could be like. A visionary is a person with original ideas about what the future will or could be like. And so I'm going to need your help, and I'm going to ask, based on that definition, type the first person whose name that you think of as maybe a well-known visionary, and type that in the chat for me. I just want to see who that sparks as in your thoughts is a visionary. I'm seeing a lot of great ideas, and the thing that I learned about a visionary is a person with some pretty tough skin. And what am I saying? Can you imagine how many people looked at the Wright brothers pretty weird when they said, I'm gonna invent this thing that can overcome gravity and fly, and it's this big, huge, and better yet, I look at Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King, as we celebrate his birthday. How difficult must it have been to believe that there could actually be equality when you've got dogs biting you with no purpose or justification, when you're going in the back of the building, but you're paying the same amount of money, when you, your wife, your children are having water hoses that are being released on you like you're less than a human, and yet he still had a dream. It reminds me of a book that some of you may have read called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And already as I'm saying this, I know some of you are saying, a visionary obviously has to have a strong dose of Uflatus operating within them in order for them to be able to persevere beyond the circumstances, the situations, the things that I can see, to get to those things that I can't see. So my question to you all already is, are you visionary? Are you limited by your limitations and what you can or cannot do in order to, or are you the one that, like the rich man in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, that didn't say, I can't do it, but you dug a little deeper and said, how am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? And so I thank you for all of those examples, some great examples, but equally as important and maybe even more difficult is the second part of my path was communication. How many of you all have had some people who weren't talking to you, but were talking at you? How many of you have been that person that was talking at someone only to realize later you really weren't talking to them? One of the things, let me give you the definition by the way of communication. Communication is imparting or exchanging of information or news. Imparting means that I've developed the right to be able to share something with that person and they're willing to receive it. That's an earned right. But then there is the exchanging. Nothing like a good listening to a good fight or where egos are going after each other and, I'm going to one up you because you're not listening to understand. You're listening to respond. And that is not communication. So to say visionary and communication was a journey for me would be an understatement. Because it's so easy when you're going through these exercises and you're saying things, it's so easy for me to look at this one and that one and look at all the things they're not doing right and they ought to be doing better. But at some point, you got to do like Michael Jackson advised us, and I'm talking to the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. Yeah. I'm talking to the man in the mirror. That's the one that needs to understand that, do you see what I see? Probably not. Why? Because mine and your backgrounds are totally different. Our experiences and life experiences have been totally different. We may be different genders, we may be different races. And so why would you see it? How could you see it? And so to give you a demonstration of that, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to have you to look at some things. And I want you to again type in the chat for me. And I'm going to flash it pretty quickly. And I want you to type in the chat for me what you see. Okay. And so let's look at this first item and type in the chat what you see for me. I'm seeing two faces. Okay. Barb, do me a favor and read in the chat what you're saying in the chat.
Okay, so you've got two things, two faces and a vase.
Okay, awesome. Okay, let's look at a second image. Tell me what you see. And Barb, help me to hear, read for me what they're saying on all of them for me, Barb.
Yeah, a duck, duck head, duck bill, and a rabbit. Most people in this case just saw the duck.
Okay. And just so you know, here's the base. Here's the base of it. Here's the two people. On this one.
Can't see the picture.
Oh, I'm sorry. So on this one, here's your base. Here's your base. Here are the two people. On this one, here's the duck. Here's his bill. On this one, here is the rabbit, and these are his ears. These are his eyes. Okay, and then let's do one more. This might be a more familiar one. What do you see here? Type it in the chat for me.
Then we're getting old lady, young lady.
Old lady, young lady, old lady, young lady. That's exactly right. Here's the young lady's chin, which is also the old lady's nose. Here's the young lady's chin, which is also the old lady's nose. I do that to let you know that's exactly how we see things in life in general. Pamela may see something as a problem. I may see it as an opportunity. And so how we visualize it mentally is going to make all the difference in the world and how we address it. From the communication standpoint, one of the things that I know you all are familiar with is the Myers-Briggs and those types of tests that really say it's so important for the communication to not be based on you and who you are, but if you really want to get something to someone. And one of the things I love about Toastmasters is it gives us the chance to use the power of our words. And I've heard various people speak like Kirby and so many others. And I know we all for the most part, understand the power of words because we've typically had some that's been so devastating that we can look back decades ago and still remember it and sometimes even think about it and feel the sting of it. But somewhere in school, there was a subject or there was something we were taught that says for every force, there is an equal and opposite force. And so every opportunity I get to open these lips and for words to come out, I'm doing my very best. Not 100%, but I'm doing my very best to speak words of life and positivity that's going to counter. That's what we can do in Toastmasters. That's how we can use, but it does take a visionary because oftentimes you don't see what I see and I don't understand why you don't see it. You know, I give you a perfect example and I don't think this person would mind me sharing, but I'm very big on developing and growing membership and value and mentoring and bringing in members. Other people may be more focused on the branding piece of things. Well, that's important, but that's really not my priority. And so what that says to me is I've had to learn as going through visionary communication is that mean we need to be linking up as a team so that we get the fullness of all of it. And I need to be willing to learn from the people that put a lot of emphasis on branding. They need to be willing to then see the importance of what I'm doing and we value the differences. And so I want to say for me, going through the visionary communication was a very difficult journey. It birthed a lot of things in me. And for us men, that word may not mean a whole lot, but for you ladies that are mothers, you know, birthing is not a easy and a comfortable process. It has really made me understand that the changes that need to take place with my vision, because there is distortion in all of our vision, it was necessary for it to be adjusted. And in order for me to really be the leader of leaders that I desire to be, it's important that I'm able to write the vision and make it plain so you can run with it. So I don't have the right to ask you to make the changes until I am first willing to demonstrate that I am willing to change. And so I thank you all for being a part of my journey. And do you see what I see? Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. As always, you inspire me, and I'm sure you've inspired the rest of us as well as Samantha and Kirby. Thank you to our three wonderful speakers. It is now time for a timer's report.
I gave the time and you didn't, none of you heard it. I just don't understand that. Let's see, Kirby, 8 minutes, 16 seconds. Samantha, 6:36. And Andre, 12:46.
Thank you very much. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our table topics master, Darren Yarborough.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. By the way, another piece of trivia about New Year's, the reason that we have Black Eyed Peas on New Year's, it's because they used to sing all the time on the Dick Clark New Year's Eve special. And that's why the association with Black Eyed Peas in New Year's. So a little extra piece of trivia. Fellow Toastmasters, my name is Darren Yarborough, and I'm a geek. At the ripe old age of, I still love graphic novels, more commonly known as comic books. One of my favorite graphic novel series is Green Lantern. And in this series, there are these things called power rings, which allow the wearer to construct solid constructs and objects made completely of light, created by the wearer's imagination and powered by the particular emotion corresponding to the ring's color. The stronger the wearer's emotion or driving afflatus, the more powerful the ring. And that is so analogous to the world that we live in, where our emotions can give us great power for good or for evil. and they can, in essence, create the world that we see around us. Tonight, my questions will be based on the various colors of power rings and on the emotion to which the ring is linked. When given a color and its emotion, your task will be to speak for 1 to 2 minutes about that color and or that emotion. Who would like to be my first volunteer tonight? Switching to the gallery, looking for people, looking for hands. Oh, Cheryl, all right, come on down. You'll recognize the pattern here. We're going to go through all the colors of the rainbow. The first color of power ring that you'll be wearing and talking about is red, and the emotion is rage or anger. Take it away.
I think that when we think about the color red and we think about rage, that can be a negative connotation. We think that it is wrong to be angry. It is wrong to have rage, but there's such a thing as righteous anger too. And I sometimes think that maybe in our day and age, we don't have enough righteous anger, and we're not sometimes angry at the things that we should be angry at. Sometimes there are unfairnesses in life. My mom used to always tell me that I had a overly developed sense of right and wrong or fairness, because I was always, as a kid, as most kids are, coming and saying, that's not fair. That's not fair. And as a child, that was probably not a plus. That was probably a little bit too self-centered sense of fairness or not fairness. But I think maybe as an adult, it's time for us to have a little bit more red and righteous anger, and to be willing to go out on the line when we see injustices and stand up for people, to get involved rather than walk away. So I think I see red in a totally different light now, and rage is maybe not as negative as we always think it should be. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. That's the color red, and you'll start to see as we go through the spectrum a shift from the negative to the positive. But then again, you can speak about the emotion or about the color. Who would be like to be my next volunteer? Looking for hands, looking for hands. All right. Oh, mana. Chris Mason, come on down. You'll be speaking about the color orange, which is connected to greed or avarice.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Table Topics Master. You hit me with a tricky one, because greed is one of my least favorite emotions. And by least favorite, I mean one of the ones that I just don't trouble myself with a whole bunch. At least that's what I thought before I started really analyzing this question. Where my greed really comes into play is with home improvement type stuff and car improvement type stuff, and just really not wanting to pay somebody else to do something that I think I could do myself. Now, the key word here, of course, is think that I can do myself, because there's a few things that I'm quite 100% sure that I cannot do for myself. But goodness gracious, folks, I have some interesting things to tell you about the things that I'm fairly confident I can do myself. So the bulk of my afflatus comes from YouTube, which tells me pretty much everything that I need to know. My most recent purchase was a $26 piece of equipment that is able to go squeegeeing. Oh, this poor background. I'm gonna have to take this down next time, because I really want to just do this motion for you guys. It's squeegees this way into your drain in your shower, so that you can unsqueegee back the other way and get all of the accumulated hair and garbage out of there really effectively. I put down $26 for this, and suddenly my drain is back to draining, which is great. Unfortunately, it was a smelly, disgusting mess. I pulled it out and it was brown and orange, if you can believe it, all over the place in the bathtub. But it's a bathtub, and when the drain works, you can just wash it all the way out, and that's great. Another great example of my complete greed on these sorts of things is that rather than buy shelves, I went and picked up a bunch of old used pallets, cut up a bunch of spare lumber that I had laying around from some other contractor's project in my house, and just chopped myself a bunch of shelves. They're terrible. They're absolute garbage. You shouldn't put things on top of them. They're held together by dowels and wood glue, which is really not how you should do shelves. But I tell you what, if you went and looked in my garage right now, you would see a giant mess of stuff, really sort of kind of organized, which is why my greed motivates an awful lot of how I do my home improvement, because I can do all of this without paying somebody else to do it for me. Thank you very much, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Believe it or not, the color orange actually does play into another famous superhero, Underdog. You remember Underdog? He always spoke in rhymes. One time a villain foiled him and was his kryptonite because the guy started stealing stuff that was orange. And as you know, nothing rhymes with orange. Underdog's kryptonite, the color orange. Moving on to the color yellow. Who would like to do this one? All right, looking for hands, looking for hands.
I think I saw Pameline's hand.
Oh, yes. Okay. Pamela, oh, Pameline. Okay. Oh, you've just been voluntold here. That was some people's greatest fear, but I know you're going to handle this very, very well because yellow is connected with the emotion of fear.
Fellow Toastmasters, that is a very difficult thing for me to express, fear. I am in no way a fearful person. As a matter of fact, I have told people in times past, I'm virtually fearless. At 66 years old, I have faced gang members in Chicago. I was almost jumped by, no, this was when I was a teenager too, and I thought I was cute, side note. They said, "We will whoop you." I was afraid, but I was not fearful. I told them, "Please don't all three of you come at once." And I pointed to the tallest one of them and I said, "You first, then you. And if you still feel inclined to do so, I'll take you on as well." And that's how I approach life. I look them in the eye. I use the things, the skills and the competencies that I've learned as a Toastmaster. And I will talk to you until you cry or you become afraid that I'm not going to stop talking. And if you make me cry, then I'll fight you. Well, that's how I used to be. Fellow Toastmasters.
All right, thank you very much. Awesome, great job. And you ended on the color yellow here on the card. So very well done. Perfectly
That was
planned.
intentional.
You nailed it. All right, we're shifting now. We're at the center of the spectrum, shifting to the other side. Who would like to take the color green?
Susie will.
Susie, all right, Susie.
I was trying to volunteer. I was trying to volunteer last time and my audio was muted.
Oh, okay.
So I was talking to nobody.
we hear you loud and clear now. And the color green is tied to willpower or bravery.
Oh, right. Greetings, fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Table Topics Master, and honored guests. Willpower. No one has ever said I did not have willpower. Yes, As a baby, I had willpower. I wanted to stay here at 1 pound and 15 ounces 1 week after birth, 9 inches long. They didn't think they could save me. They did not even have an incubator. But I wanted to stay. Later on, my parents found out that I would be blind because my eyes didn't focus at 6 months. They wondered, how will she succeed? They treated me just like any other child, told me to do things, I did them. And through my life, I've always tried my hardest with the greatest willpower I could use. If you don't have willpower, you probably won't be very successful. Mr. Table Topics Master.
All right, thank you very much. Very, very well done. Great answer. Great answer. I believe we have time for one, maybe two more. Who would like to be next? Let me switch to the gallery view so I can see all of these faces and hands. I'm looking for a hand. I'm looking for a hand here. And be careful, this is like being at an auction. If you reach up and scratch your nose or something, you're about to bid on something. Oh, David Wells, I just saw you there. Okay. Either that or you're watching Carol Burnett. I'm not sure which it is. Would you like to speak?
As long as it's blue.
As long as it's not blue?
As long as it is blue.
As long as it is blue. All right. It is blue, and the emotion that blue is tied to is hope.
Blue is my favorite color. And how appropriate is it that it is hope? Because if you ever look at cards, most of the cards that are in the aisle that have afflatus type of messages or a hopeful message is blue. The other color of blue is when it comes to a baby. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm going to be a first-time grandpa next month. And we are praying for blue. My kids won't tell me what it is. Mom's going nuts because she doesn't know what to buy them. So blue is a great baby boy, obviously. So we're praying for a blue. I told my wife when we got married, I told her I wanted both my kids by the time I was 25. And she said, what? I said, I want both my kids, one boy, one girl, in that order before I was 25. And she asked me why. I said, so they're out of the house by the time I'm 25 or by the time I was 50, I should say. And almost made that goal. But anyway, blue is my favorite color. It is the color of the sky. It is just a soft color. And do you remember you were talking about rings? Kind of flashback when I was a kid. We used to have those emotional rings or those rings that told you what kind of a mood you were in. And blue was the perfect color. I love the color blue. And blue is my favorite color. And the reason why is because most of the time I wore that ring, it was blue because it showed that I was calm and I was hopeful for my future. Mr. Table Topics Master.
All right, thank you very much. Very well done. Our time is almost over, but let me just tell you what the other colors would have been in the emotional spectrum. There was indigo, which is connected with empathy, and there is violet, which is connected with love. And just for the fun of it, I added a couple more. These are not comic book canon, but I put in joy being connected to tie-dyed and curiosity being connected to plaid. So in case you're wondering, what's my power ring? Which one would I be connected to? What's the optimal color for me? I would have to say it's blue for hope. For my hope is that I'll always hope for the best, and I always hope the best for everyone else. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Could we get a timer's report, please?
All right. Cheryl, your red color took you to 1 minute, 21 seconds. Chris Mason with his orange at 2:29. Pamela with her very courageous yellow, 1:33. Susie, 1:31. And David's blue was at 2:12.
Thank you very much. And now it is my pleasure to turn our meeting over to our general evaluator for the evening, Cheryl Reynolds.
Okay, well, my first job as general evaluator is to call for the speech evaluations. And as you know, in our club, we do it in 2 pieces. We first will have a physical evaluation, and that evaluator will be looking for the physical delivery of the speech, expressions, gestures, perhaps voice intonations, anything to do with the actual physical delivery of the speech. And that one is, let me get the right timing, is a 1 to 2 minute evaluation. And then the message evaluator will have 2 to 3 minutes to evaluate message content, what the theme was, how it came across to the audience, anything involved with the words or the messaging of the speech. So for our first evaluation, we will have Dan Arbuckle, who is giving the physical evaluation for our speaker number 1, which was Kirby. Dan?
Thank you. Kirby, thank you for your speech. I have 2 older brothers, 8 and 11 years older. My father was a baseball coach. My mother kept score. I grew up on a baseball field. Your speech pulled me in. I was there with you, watching you play baseball. Everything about your speech from a physical evaluation content standpoint was a smorgasbord. You gave me everything I wanted to see, and I think all the rest of us. It pulled all of us right in. You had the bat. You showed us how to swing the bat. You had that giant windmill, which actually maybe they could beat Townsend in the Who, but still yet, all of that body language, all of those motions. When you're dressed as the umpire and you're practicing that call for that wonderful game, the vocal variety was almost as much movement as your body. It really all was amazing to watch. I think what I loved the most was the uniform. We saw you as the child. We saw you as the umpire. We saw you as the person in a military uniform in the Army. And then back to the Toastmaster that you started out as to begin the speech. All wonderfully done. It was just a pleasure to watch and a pleasure to take in. If I could offer one minor thing to work on, slow down just a little bit. Let us enjoy, let us give you a laugh, let us take in what you're doing, but visually, the vocal variety, the motion, just wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. And I also enjoyed all of the costume changes. I was a little worried the bat was going to hit the back of the bookcase, but we were good. So we were great. So the next part of the evaluation then will be by Barb Grenade, who will evaluate the message content of Kirby's speech.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, Kirby. I specifically went in and chose you to evaluate this speech. So what I'm focused in is, did we get your message? That's what the speech is about. So the purpose of this speech was to share some aspect of your leadership style, or you can discuss styles in general, but you chose to share an aspect of it. Kirby, with this speech, you hit the ball, rounded the bases, slid into home plate. You're safe. You have a definite afflatus for the game, officiating, and using visualization throughout your life. And you gave us well-painted pictures of when it started and how it carried throughout your life, highlighting some major areas where visualization played a key role for you. With these examples, you illustrated a long history of using visualization, which helped to establish your credibility in talking to us about it. So here's my suggestions on this. While you had an engaging story, and it was, and yes, I was worried about the bat too, it took a long time to get to your message statement. If you hadn't given us something in the introduction, I wouldn't have had a clue really what it was about. So it was almost at the green light before you really touched on visualization and your use of it. So I would suggest think of a way to get it in early, and I'll give you an example. For instance, when you were talking about you were at the bat and the coach was yelling at you, while at the end you said you visualized, he saw, that it wasn't going to work, you had your eyes closed, but you could see where it is. That's the point I would add about the visualization, because you're giving the example and explaining why visualization worked for you. So I think that would have made more of an impact on it. And at the beginning, think about what is the message you want us to take away. So instead maybe of saying, the example of you took the words and turned them into something when you were leading the men in the military, I'd like to have more specifics on what you heard and how you envisioned it, and then how it came into place, and your experience of what you discovered through the process. I think that would help us more on the leadership side. You have a great afflatus for giving us examples of what you're passionate about and believe in. And with each speech, I think we get another piece of the Kirby Scott puzzle. And I don't think it's a 250-piece puzzle. I think we're looking maybe 1,000, 2,500. I can't wait to see the next piece. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you. That was fun. I love it when the evaluation has an analogy that fits back to the message of the speech. That's always a nice circle. All right, so our next speaker was Samantha Cook, and her physical evaluator will be Daniel Jarman.
Thank you, Cheryl. Samantha, thank you for your speech. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think you had some good speaking variations, speed variations and tonal changes during your speech, and you had a pleasant volume throughout. And one thing that I always find when I'm listening to you speak is you have nice, clean enunciation and speaking manner. I never struggle to understand what you're saying. You always are nice and clear and easy to understand. So I really appreciate that. As far as your setting, you chose to sit. That can be pros or cons, depending on. It's simpler to be centered and to know where you're facing, but it does limit your dynamic range a little bit. Compared to others on the call tonight, your resolution seems pretty low and a little fuzzy, but I could thankfully see your facial expressions clearly enough that it wasn't too much of a distraction. It took me a while, but then later I noticed you have a white square in the background that then once I noticed it, it was kind of pulling my eyes off. So that's something maybe look at next time you're giving a speech is your room had a reasonable presentation. It's just make sure there's nothing that's just going to catch the eye and distract the audience at some point during the speech. Other things I think you did well. I love your facial expressions. You are very animated when you speak. You know, your eyebrows going up, the smile, seeing the teeth, leaning in, nodding, shaking your head. I really got a lot of that where I feel like you were expressing yourself well. You know, you had some hand gestures around towards the edge of the screen like I am now. So that's something always to look out for, especially when you're sitting, is to make sure those are, you know, viewed, reviewable. And I can't see Terry Ann. I'm already in the red. But great speech. I think you had some really positive points. few things to work on. Looking forward to your next one. Back to you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Daniel. And that was enjoyable. And now equally enjoyable, I think, will be the message evaluation, and that will be given by David Wells.
I love this format of giving feedback. I need to work on my feedback. And Samantha, what a great job. And you said that your subject was Journal of Emotions. I hate writing. I'd rather type, but I know that journal is by writing. And I loved your 3 key learnings you said. 1, it's okay to feel. Embrace your feelings. You know, it kind of reminds me of TV show where you have, I think it was, gosh, I can't remember. It was Saturday Night Live. And he says, I'm good enough. Doggone it. People like me. So embrace that feeling. Suppress the negative. I hate negative people. I hate being around negative people. So I understand. Suppress, get away from that. Run. I would say run to the afflatus, because 1, that's a little bit more uplifting, more positive. So I liked that part. 2, how do you respond to your feelings? And you gave some analogies and you gave some examples, the criticism. I hate that word. I'm sorry, I use the word hate a lot, but I don't like that word. Why? Because criticism, regardless of how it is intended, is negative connotation. Now, I can give you feedback, and it's your choice whether you take it as good or bad. So I don't like the word criticism. Again, connotation. And then ways to manage and control your emotions. Take a brief count. Take 10 seconds. I needed to take 10 seconds today. I went all the way to Columbia for a card that I need for work. This was my second trip because the first trip didn't go so well. They're like, I drove 4 hours there and they're like, you're not ready. I said, what? I've been doing this since June trying to get this because my card was getting ready to expire. So today I'm up there and the lady said, I apologize for the first time. I say, it's not your problem. It's not your fault. It was just a situation. So we're sitting there and the machine is not working. And I said, do you want me to sing you a song? And she goes, what? I said, do you want me to sing you a song? And she goes, sure. So I sang, have patience, don't be in such a hurry. When you are impatient, you only start to worry. Remember that God is patient too. So think about the times when others have to wait for you. So cut the negative, run to the afflatus. I loved your message and understanding your emotional intelligence. What I heard is that you learned a lot in this project and that you communicated what you learned with us very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. All right, now last but not least, we will be having evaluations for Andre's wonderful speech, which also included singing. So there's a theme building up here now. So the physical evaluator for Andre will be Linda Maniscalco. Singing is optional, Linda. You may sing or not sing in your evaluation.
Thanks, Cheryl. Obviously, you have not heard my voice. Andre, what a great way to end your first pathway DTM. Thank you so much for giving us a speech. You started out with the statement, I set a dream, and you said it just looking right in our eyes with good, strong eye contact that drew us right in. next you called on your alter ego, Walter. Now, I think I captured when Walter was there and when Andre was there, but you know, you guys are getting so close now. You had audience participation. You asked questions and people answered in the chat. That was really good. You wanted to know who was a visionary for people, and you got a lot of responses back. You did the PowerPoints, and I have to say, I never saw all the things everybody else saw, but that's okay. Hand movements. I really love those. Either or. Rich dad, poor dad. And then when you said, oh, how, I just looked right at your mouth. I couldn't get my eyes away from it. Nothing like a good fight. And your hands were going chaotic, just like a fight. It was really cool. You could have gone this way, but who goes? Vocal variety. You were conversational, but you really had some great emphasis. How am I going to do it? You got louder. The hows, you got louder. Talking about the fight. And thank you for singing. It's always a blessing when you sing to us. And you are a person that looks in the mirror. So this was truly a unique example of your speaking style. And thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, so we're going to go full circle now. We started with Kirby's baseball bat, and now we're at Amy Zend, who is going to bat cleanup for this evaluation team today and do the message evaluation for Andre's speech.
Andre, your message was such an afflatus. You make me want to be a better person, and you really get me thinking. Your message, visionary communication, not everybody sees what you see. I heard that throughout your speech loud and clear. I love the examples you gave on how not everybody sees what you see. The Wright brothers, not everybody saw what they saw. I loved how you did the pictures and you asked us, what do you see? Put it in the chat. Not everybody saw the same thing. So you really illustrated what you were trying to tell us, that not everybody sees what you see. What I would have liked to see in your speech are those personal examples. I really felt like I was missing it. This is a reflection on your path, Andre. Tell me a time when you had a vision and the rest of us didn't see your vision, or when you were trying to get your message across and they didn't hear us. I want to hear the Andre story. I need that, especially for something when you have to reflect on your path. So something else I would suggest is, how can we be better visionary communicators? If your message is, if we're trying to communicate and people aren't hearing what you're hearing or seeing what you're seeing, how can we get them to hear and see what we're trying to tell them? Give me those tips or how-tos or whatever it is that we need to do for them, whether it be take a pause, say it differently, or maybe it might be take a break, come back to it, talk about it tomorrow, whatever those tips are. But I want to know, if I'm not getting you to hear or see what I am hearing and seeing, how can I do that? Bring your story full circle and tell us how we can get our point across. You're such an afflatus speaker. I am left motivated and inspired to do something. So thank you, Andre. And I'm not going to sing.
Thank you, Amy. That was a home run. So there we go. Well, that concludes the physical and the message evaluation. So now it's time for me to give my evaluation as general evaluator. And it's a tough job, I'm telling you, because one of the things I'm supposed to do is to give you some areas, or give our club areas for improvement. And I don't have I don't think any tonight, maybe one I'll stretch. First of all, this was a long meeting. Some of us have been on here since 6. It's almost 9. That's 3 hours. It's a long meeting, but it didn't feel long. And I think that's the key thing. It didn't feel long because all of it had a purpose and was interactive, and we all could be involved in it and get value from it. So, and it was fun. So that was something that I appreciated. It just didn't feel long. We really had 3 pieces tonight. We had the roundtable, then the business meeting, and then the meeting, and they kind of flowed together. We had inspiration in the roundtable. We had inspiration in the business meeting. Andre was giving inspirational statements even as part of his business meeting report. So it was there, and it just flowed right into the theme that our Toastmaster planned for tonight, with or without alcohol, and it worked out. It was inspirational. One of the other things I really liked was the creativity of the word. I have 2 degrees in English. I have always think I know a lot of words. I've never heard of afflatus. I have no idea where Joanne came up with that, but it was new and it was creative and it was inspired. So I really appreciate the effort that she went to find a word that could really stretch all of our vocabularies. Although no one we speak to will know what it means, we will know what it means. The other thing that's fun, we have an advanced club. We had 3 really strong speeches. I learned from all of them. I enjoyed all of them. They were all different. We had Andre singing, we had Kirby swinging, and then we had Sam anchoring in the middle there to give us a little bit of grace and sanity. So that was great. I appreciated that one. I learned all kinds of new things about New Year's, so that was great, a great add-on by our Toastmaster. I learned the most important thing I learned tonight. I had never known this. I didn't know that Underdog had a problem with orange, because I didn't know he rhymed. I watched Roadrunner. I didn't watch Underdog when I was a kid. So I learned that. That's very important knowledge, I'm sure, going forward. But I did enjoy the color groups and the table topics. I enjoyed, even Terry had great backgrounds to give us today. I mean, there was no part of this meeting that was a miss. Everything was a hit all the way through. I love Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Andre. I've read that book several times. It's always great. I always love it when you mention it. And then the only thing that we did, and it really wasn't an issue because we handled it. We went a little long in the roundtable. We made the time up in the business meeting. We started this club meeting 2 minutes past the time. So it was great. Everybody adapted. And I think our only maybe fix for next time is the roundtable was so dynamic. Maybe we ought to give it a little more time right off the bat. That concludes my report. And now it's time for the timer to give her report on the evaluations.
Our evaluators, let's see, Dan Arbuckle, 137. Barb, 322. David Jarman, 214. Daniel Jarman, sorry about that, Dan, 214. David Wells, 333. Linda Maniscalco, 155, and Amy Zentz, 232. All of the evaluators stayed within their timeframes.
And next it will be our WAG giving her report for the night. And she has lots of, we use the word a lot, so she has lots to count.
Thank you, Cheryl. You are correct. We did have great usage of the word afflatus tonight. And just as a side note, I went and looked at synonyms for inspiration, and that word came up, and I thought, well, that's easy enough to say. Like you said, other people may not know what we're saying when we do, but I thought it was very well used. We had Dan Arbuckle used it, and Samantha, Andre, Darren Yarborough, Chris, David Wells used it 3 times. Barb Grenade used it twice. Amy Zentz used it twice. Cheryl used it once, and Terry Ann used it once. So great job, everyone. We I think tonight our favorite word again was so. That seems to be a common one. Yes, Cheryl, you had several. We also, Andre, you liked and so. You had several uses of that. And you also had a couple of, I guess, repeats like my, and but, you know, just kind of restarts in that respect. And one of your, I guess if you want to call it grammatical, I don't know if I want to call it an error, but faux pas was gonna instead of going to. You did that several times. Let's see. Kirby, you did great. I think you had one, you know. I liked that you called, I think it was your opposing team or something, the Darth Vader of the league. You know, I thought that was a good description. And you were very descriptive. I didn't write them all down, but I really loved the descriptions that you used throughout your speech. One word I think that you misused was get instead of get. So that was one grammatical thing there. Samantha, you were pretty clean. And I did notice you said wanna instead of want to. Let's see. I think overall, again, you know, we had a few uhs and here and there, a few more ands, but I think overall it was a really good meeting. I was excited to hear the word used so many times. So thank you, everyone. And that is my report.
I think I hand the ball back to the Toastmaster now. So.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you all for a wonderful meeting. One last piece of trivia in parting. What's that odd song we sing at New Year's?
The old lang syne.
Lang syne.
And what does that mean? Or what is it about? One or the other?
Days of old.
Our acquaintances.
Last year.
Common funerals, graduations, times of reflection on the past. It is an odd song, but there you go. And that is it for me this evening. It is now my pleasure to turn the meeting over to our president, Linda Wilson.
Thank you so much, Dan. Awesome evaluations. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for leading that our evaluations feedback. Only thing I want to remind everybody is our next meeting in February, and Barbara Grenade is going to be our Toastmaster.
Yay.
Yay.
Go Barb.
She has picked out a fun theme for us. You know, it's all about competition. So it's going to be centered around the Olympic Games and contests. So everyone sign up quickly, soon for the fun.
Linda,
yes.
to give everybody a heads up, I'm going to send out an email, but I want you've got lots of time to think about this. I want you to bring something to the meeting that you take as an award, something you've won. And that doesn't have to mean a trophy, medal, plaque, because sometimes we're given things that mean a heck of a lot to us that don't fit in that category. So I'll work with the table topic master. I don't even know if we have one yet, to come up with some fun things. And my goal is to come up with questions you cannot Google.
Oh. There won't be sweating though, right? There'll be no sweating in this competition, correct?
No, but you have to understand, I was a coach for, maybe 20 plus years. I can't promise if you mess up and go overtime, there won't be laps and push-ups involved, okay?
Here you go, Alexa.
Yes, wonderful meeting. Let's get some feedback from our guests. How about Yolanda? What did you think about the meeting?
The meeting went absolutely well. I was traveling from home in the car and back home, and I stayed entertained the entire time. So I had a lot of insight that I would definitely share with the other clubs, as always. Linda, you do a fantastic job organizing meetings and ensuring that everyone stays abreast. So great job.
Thank you so
Great
much.
job, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it.
And Barb, I volunteered myself to be your table topic master.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
all right. Awesome. Thank you. Any other guests? Who else do we have?
I'm still hanging here. This is Pamela.
Yes,
Listen,
Evelyn.
yes, I looked at this and I said, who stays in a meeting for 3 hours?
We do. Woo!
And now I have to say, I do. That was a great meeting. I enjoyed it. I had to keep crossing out or stopping my video because my husband brought in my favorite meal of the year thus far. And that was those crunchy nachos. So, you know, it's not etiquette for me to, you know. But other than that, I was fascinated by the spiritual and the physical evaluations. I had to stay and see how that's done. It's genius. And I thoroughly appreciated you, Kirby, with all that swinging. I never hit a softball in my life. All right. I tried really hard. I fully expected you to say that strike instead of you felt the ball connect. And Andre, you stopped short of preaching. And then you sang to us, and I love it. And then I have to look at you. Is it Samantha? Did you present? Thank you so much for your speech. I'm telling you, I learned so much, and I'm trying to figure out how to give back without volunteering to take a leadership role. I love you all. That is sincere. If ever you connect with me on Facebook, I will end every statement with LOVE, period. And that's what I mean, love, period. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. And last person, feedback from Katie.
Katie.
You scared her.
Did I scare you away, Katie? All righty. Any other guests? Do we have any other guests? Get some feedback from?
I'm not a guest this week or this meeting, but next meeting I will. And I will tell you, like I said, I had a 12-hour day today and I was dog tired when I came in. And I'm telling you what, I probably stay up till midnight now because so much energy you gave me. It was a great meeting, but next month I'm going to attend as the area director so I can start my area reports. And I'm sure the Toastmasters for today's meeting was probably going to be happy to hear that.
All right. Thank you so very much. We look forward to your visit. So if nothing else, I would like to adjourn the meeting. The meeting is adjourned, but feel free to hang around and ask questions and fellowship.
And come
Can
to
I add one
officers training
thing,
in the
Linda?
morning.
Okay.
Happy Friday.
Club officer training tomorrow.